Welcome to Mingling with the Municipality. I'm your host, Jordan Hertner. Once a month on Shaw TV, we sit down with municipal leaders talking about issues that affect our community. These questions are coming straight from you through social media. And joining me today, Mayor Melissa Blake. How are
you? Very well today, thanks.
It has been 6 episodes since we've had you back, so it's so nice to have you officially sitting with us again.
Well, indeed. Times have changed in that 6 months, so exciting to be able to do it.
It's crazy. It's a new year and so many hot topics right now.
Indeed.
We're going to jump right in. Curious where we're at for the public who maybe don't know with Willow Square and Aging in Place.
Certainly. We were pleased to receive an announcement a few months back, and it was where the province had agreed to transfer the title of that property to the Housing Development Corporation, along with a bit of startup funding by the look of it. And what's happening now is that Housing Corporation has started the public engagement process to hear feedback from people, but we need everyone to understand that the dominant purpose of the project is for that seniors aging in place type of facility that's long been devoted in our minds to that site. The complication, of course, is that to do it in isolation would be cost prohibitive, and so right now this community engagement is to figure out what else can be on that site that could help to subsidize that living for seniors. We know that when we're in a floodplain, like on Willow Square, you cannot have ground floor residences, which means you're going to have to build up. Second level habitation is fine, but that means the ground floors can be open to a lot of commercial opportunities, and trying to figure out what that could potentially be. And then above that, you don't want to just have a commercial site. Certainly we want to be able to incorporate some of the other needs in the housing market. So if there's an ability to charge market rents and take the amount of profit that would be part of the public company, then that profit turns into subsidization for some of the other living expenses. So if you think about it as a multi-parcel site, the purpose is for seniors aging in place, but the premise to make that happen requires some additional support, and we'd like to generate that support right on the same site.
So what's the conflict then? Are people getting thrown off that they thought it was going to be specifically an aging in place, and the fact that there may be other things to help subsidize the cost, that's throwing people for a loop?
There's an awful lot of complication around it. So it was a committed site by the province probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
Then the province changed their mind, and they decided it would be more economical for them to do a continuing care site up on North Parsons. We've gone through that public debate. Clearly not satisfactory to people who have been invested in the community for a long time, and we wanted to share again the views of our seniors that they wanted to be in the downtown, and that was certainly an objective that we heard from many people, was to have it there. Somewhere in the messaging, some folks got in their mind that it could only be seniors on site.
Yeah.
And that just is not a financial viability. When the project's committed to another site, the funds follow the seniors, they say, but it depends on what spectrum of care a person would need in that facility. So we've got to find another way to make those units affordable.
Very good. That's interesting. So we have a question, and this comes from Todsky via Twitter. Where do you see the City Centre McMurray project as of now?
All right. Well, thank you for the question, Todsky. It's one when I look out my windows in the office, I have great vision and dreams for our future, but they got captured along with a lot of public engagement on the City Centre redevelopment plan. So the plan was pretty aggressive. When we were looking at $100 oil, we had a lot more anticipation. We'd see population increases in a shorter time period. Now we're at $50 oil. And with $50 oil and certainly some public opinion, we've scaled things back. It's still a very valid plan. It's still something that can go forward in the future if the elected officials at the time want to pursue that. But right now we're really looking hard at what our needs are for the time that we're serving in. And a big influence, of course, comes in terms of what have we completed, what could we complete. The municipality is responsible for a number of projects. Part of it is the Jubilee Plaza, which is still, I'm going to call it still under construction. That might be the greatest first element that we put into the downtown. And then we'll hopefully be able to make some decisions. We're getting really close to taking the Sport and Entertainment Center details out to the public. So if they saw the images of the arena and the downtown potential, that is the site that I truly believe could grow up and actually happen sooner rather than later. We've got a letter of intent that we're negotiating right now. So I think we're real close on the Sport and Entertainment Center. Jubilee Plaza is still under construction, will be done this summer. And when we look to the rest of the projects, it's a matter of balancing off what the actual population needs are going to look like versus what we think needs to happen in that time frame.
Lots to come. So I love that you touched on the downtown arena. Is this something that residents we're gonna see one
Absolutely.
day? It's gonna happen.
Absolutely, they're gonna see it, and council simply can't wait for that. So when you're going through the negotiations, they're private and sensitive, and we've had to go through that process up to this point, but we are very, very close to getting whatever this proposal looks like out into the public for the details. I know we had some back in the fall that were preliminary. Going through the process, we're gonna have some different information that gets out to the public. The image doesn't change. It's still a really cool thing that you'd have in the downtown. But the proponent that we're working with has, once we sign off this letter of intent, everything goes to the public, save for one component, but you'll find out what the expense that the municipality would have to contribute each year would be, what the potential for the venue could be. It'll be really great to give the public as much information as what council has.
That's very exciting. And then we were also speaking on the oil prices, which changes a lot in the community. It was spoken about at one point that North Side, might be put on hold, but that has been changed and it's going ahead again. Is that?
Let me wiggle my fingers a little bit. For the North Side Recreation Center, we certainly see it as an important thing for the kind of population that would be coming in the future, where we're still trying to figure out what do we actually have right now. We'll be doing a census this year. But still, I think that the McDonald Island facility has been a godsend, and what we're looking to do is to duplicate, in some respect, another one for the other side of the river. Question as to timing was council had taken it out of the budget because it is more expensive than we're able to afford with the revenues we have currently. But we can shift and juggle and reprioritize other things if we want to pursue that. So that's the process that council's going through right now. On Tuesday night, we actually approved the $7 million budget for getting it from a 25% design standard out to a 75% design standard, which means that when they put it out for bids, they're going to have a lot more comprehensive bidding coming in. So in terms of the capital for that project, we can wait a little bit longer for the committed capital, but if we get that design ready and we can get it out for tenders, we're hoping that we'll be able to capitalize on a more robust competitive market and see some better pricing on it. So it's just a very interesting time for us to be pursuing that one.
It's very exciting. Would it be shifting because there was, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, a lot of public engagement on that, and it was, said that they were looking at phase 3. Because of all of this, would we be shifting to look at the, 1 or 2 because of the prices, or stick with what was, asked?
One thing that council did very recently was to say, get started on those arenas. Their design is pretty well done, so just get at her.
Yeah.
So we've got the funding that was approved previously for that, so it didn't require any juggling. It was just there. So now we're getting that supposedly to come under consideration right away. So it should open sooner than the full rec center. But at no time have I ever seen council back off of design option 1, which is the fuller build.
Yes.
So we're really committed to seeing something significant there without taking the pool away. Doesn't seem like the right thing to do when you've got the assets that we have in town, and one's close to closure and by age and respect. So we're really committed to seeing things like the bowling alley on the inside, the swimming pool.
You know what? We need a bowling alley. I'll give it that. We've been talking about this.
I hear this
6 episodes ago. That's the first thing we talked about. I was like, I love bowling. So yes, yeah. Very good. Okay, kind of some exciting news. The Legion was, looking at some troubled waters there for a little bit, possibly closing, but that's no longer the case.
It was a frightening thing. I think that they were looking at being absorbed by the provincial entity or whatever it was that would take over that property. And they go, no, we need our Legion. What are we going to do? And brilliantly enough, they got a board that became reinvigorated in trying to find ways to save it. So they staved off the takeover. They kept the building, and they said, okay, but it's not good enough. And so they made a presentation to council back in the fall. And council had agreed that we would give a grant of $495,000 for them to get their building up to code and take on whatever measures they needed to be a sustainable organization. So they've got multiple purposes. Yes, number 1 is all about the veterans, and we encourage people, if they've served and they have not yet connected with Legion, go. It's a great, great place to do it, and they have resources available for those vets. But it's also a community association. It's where people will go to book banquet rooms and have lunches and just do things that are pretty common in other communities in their Legion halls. We want that here too. So what they've done is put a brand new face on the place upstairs in the banquet room. We had General Rick Hillier come in to do the dinner remarks that evening when they were showing it off, and it was just an outstanding evening.
That's very great. Couple more questions here. This one comes from John Tupper by Facebook. Given the swoon in oil prices, everything is regarding oil prices right now because of how can it not, you have gone on record saying now is the time to catch up on infrastructure. What are your infrastructure priorities at the moment?
Certainly, and I thank John for the question. Obviously, we're always looking at what are the needs of the community, what do our people here now, what do the people of the future need, but we're not just Fort McMurray, we're also our rural communities. So if I gave a priority, one of the decisions council has recently made is that in our rural communities, we want to find a way to deliver pressurized service to Conklin, Janvier, anybody who needs to have water that doesn't come by truck and sewer that doesn't get pumped out that way. It's one of the biggest priorities I think we have, and commitments, so we don't want to deviate from that. Next that I'll talk about probably though is the ability to get that commercial space available. Anytime you want to put something in place, you've got to do a whole lot of other work to make that possible. So the deep services and that sort of thing are sort of one of those areas that we don't talk about, but we definitely need to do that makes an impact on the budget. There's just so much in the works that
it's crazy.
To say what's the priority, they're all the priority. What about the ones that didn't get done last year? They're a priority too. So we've got a lot of these things that are really important.
Good. Part 2 from him as well. Over the past 4 years, a number of ambitious projects have been planned, but all residents are seeing a growing number of vacant lots and general municipal squalor. What is going to be done to fix this mess?
So the downtown certainly was one of those areas that we had grand plans for, and we've, as a municipality, taken over some of those properties, and we're hopeful that we'll be getting things set to a righter path. So if we've got decrepit old buildings, so you'd want to see those ones taken away. And I think that's where the Sport and Entertainment Centre certainly comes in. If we get that one nailed down and supported, then we could start to see some change certainly in this area of the downtown. And the reason for calling them catalyst projects is because, in theory, they will stimulate other growth and development around that area to take advantage of the opportunity that comes from hosting events with thousands of people at it. You see it happening in Edmonton right now. They've taken their Rexall Place and they've got an arena that's going into the downtown. You've already got 3 or 4 office towers that have decided they're going to blossom up around that. So until we actually get into the heat of it, I can't comment on whether things will or won't happen, but I'm still optimistic that our downtown will start looking more modern and refreshed as time goes on.
Good. Last question that we have, this one comes from, and this is speaking on the vacant buildings or some of the vacant buildings we've had downtown. This one comes to us from John Alcock via Facebook. He asks, when will the city take their share of the responsibility for the Penhorwood disaster?
Right. So, John, thank you for the question. And I don't want people thinking that there's responsibility that rests with the municipality, but there's an undeniable concern that we have for our residents who were there that were impacted. So I have to, historically, I've had to be careful because we were named in the lawsuit along with 24 other defendants in that one. And we have been working, pretty faithfully, I think, with the condominium association trying to find our way through this one. We have, in fact, actually come to a settlement agreement. So in fact, we will be able to offer what comes through that agreement that I can't talk about the details on. But more importantly, I think for the immediate term, we right now at this very moment have those buildings coming down. The demolition takes about a month long to get those units that are uninhabitable down. And for me, again, it's another blank slate for a fresh start. Condominium Corporation, of course, will own that land, and they'll be able to work with anybody who wants to come in and redevelop or however they would manage that, which is an offset to whatever settlements they have through those defendants' claims. So we have done as much as we could. We've done more than we should because we actually genuinely care about what happens there. So that demolition will not be charged back to the residents in that unit. The municipality has no responsibility to do it, but we're doing it because we think it's the right thing to do.
Interesting. So coming up right now as well, I want to talk about the by-election. This is happening very fast, and I don't think a lot of people are expecting it. Is this something that's unique, and what will this bring to residents of Fort McMurray?
Well, it's a great opportunity if you're thinking about a career like mine. Jump in, put your name forward.
You have till March 30th, or March 2nd.
No, March 2nd.
There you go.
By March 2nd, we'll expect to have a slate of nominees. You're certainly seeing some of those names coming out.
Yes.
But my greater interest and concern is how do we get people out and inspired to vote in a by-election?
I was just going to ask that too.
Those questions that those folks have sent in for us are excellent questions. They're the kind of things that if you're thinking about the influence that you have when you're an elected official, it is the decision-making factor. And so when people have concerns that were identified here, that's where people actually get to learn more about it and actually make those decisions. So it's I was asked to say it's a rewarding thing to pursue. It's not rewarding. We don't pay you well. You get beat up by people all the time. But it is the most privileged thing that you can do.
Very true, yes. I love that. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you, Jordan.
We hope you've enjoyed our latest episode of Mingling with the Municipality, and we want to hear from you. So please add us on Twitter at ShawTV4MC using the hashtag AskShawYMM. That's all the time we have for this episode of Mingling with the Municipality. I've been your host, Jordan Hertner. Have a terrific day, Fort McMurray.